My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is documentation that was captured on May 14th, 2024 at 9:47 a.m. and 34 seconds. That's the starting time. And it is originally a video, specifically a screen recording. And so if you are aware of observing the documentation that I have provided, screen recordings are essentially video documentation that provide additional analysis regarding what it is that I've already documented, helping you identify the patterns, pointing out particularly points that are particularly acute, if you will, in order to recognize. It's one thing for me to state it. It's one thing for me to state the fact that there's a consistency. It's another thing for me to show you so that you can see it with your own eyes. I believe that there's nothing more powerful than that. That's why I use screen recordings. In addition to showing what is literally a pattern. You seeing a pattern on any given day of the entity stalking by helicopter 1 minute after another, because it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget to connect all the dots. This is not separate. It's a pattern of conduct. What the entity is doing on an ongoing, ceaseless basis. That's the purpose. And that's the value of the screen recordings. And so this is originally a screen recording that was captured on May 14, 2024. And I'm prefacing this documentation, which has been converted to audio in order to publish it, I believe, more effectively via podcast, because this is a criminal act of obstruction of justice that I'm simultaneously documenting. Again, every criminal act of obstruction of justice is relevant to, again, the basis for establishing necessary federal policies, legislation, informing federal policy. The government that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring is one that is at the outset is engaging in a criminal system that intends to obstruct justice. It is the intent to obstruct justice. It's built into the criminal system. All right. So the government that is corrupt, that's engaging in this criminal system, is in its criminal engagement in the system seeking to obstruct justice. All right. So the government includes the people of the state. This is removing the fallacy that the people of the state are individuals, that they are exercising privacy, any freedom of speech. They're not. This is exploiting what are constitutional rights we are all under the oppression that we have. Federal group stalking and monitoring is shattering that illusion, and you're recognizing a malicious system where the government is actually maintaining vicarious presence all around you, while the people of the state and the government itself are of the same condition and engaging in the same exact criminal pattern of conduct. And that is speaking to what is an unconstitutional basis, both on one that is readily identifiable. There's no constitutional basis for the government to keep you under surveillance under existing state and federal constitutions. You've committed no crime. You don't even have probable cause of reasonable suspicion. There's no warrant that you can create. There is nothing that you can state. No placement of a criminal act, a malicious act, to place an innocent American citizen's name on a terrorist list, which is supposed to be some superficial guise under which you're stalking them. That's not helping with the criminal system. You're identifying the ways in which this corrupt government acts, because placing an innocent American citizen's name on a terrorist list, it's nothing other than providing documentation and exposure to who needs to be removed from their positions, who needs to be prosecuted for this domestic terrorism that the government is engaging in concert with the people of the state. So I want to make sure that you're understanding, first of all, this is a criminal act of obstruction of justice. This screen recording, which was perfectly fine. You will hear no hitch in the recording. I'm in the office at Alvarado Gardens, a third-party facilitating venue. So this is the criminal pattern of conduct by the state that is engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. This is state surveillance that I'm subject to in the workplace. Again, I am speaking to a never before contemplated basis for recovery of the ordinary targeted individual. You are subject to surveillance in every aspect of your life, including while you just want to go to work and provide a living for yourself. And you're subject to not ordinary harassment, it's terrorism by a government of a demonic nature that seeks to obstruct justice, threatening your ability to keep your job while they're conspiring to murder and kidnap you while you just want to go to work. That's what the state of California is engaging in. And this is what I'm documenting as I'm capturing a screen recording on May 14, 2024. It is a screen recording, and you can hear me reviewing not only images on my phone, but I'm naming names. I'm speaking to the real-time engagement and the elements of monitoring. You have third-party group stalker speaker companies, which is a third-party employer. They are engaged in criminal facilitation of this criminal system with the state. That speaks to federal prison for the corporate office for the employees who are engaging in group stalking with the state. And Maria Solis Alvarez, a third party, a malicious actor, is engaging in that criminal system as I'm capturing this video. Literally, in short, what the entity does is exactly what they did as I capture the pattern of conduct. As the psychopath, the mentally ill, will replicate, they will repeat their criminal engagement in the pattern of conduct as I am capturing documentation, which is evidence to be submitted in federal court, that a real human flesh and bone federal judge is going to review this evidence while you engage in that very same pattern of conduct while I'm talking about that pattern of conduct. This is the remarkable criminal conduct of the demon possessed, and that is speaking to the ability to recognize, which is serving as a PSA for the mental illness of those who are demon possessed. All right, and that's the decision making, that's the personality defect, the mentally deranged processing. While these are those that are of that condition, and they are rambling free in California, and that is implications for the country. The mentally ill, you have what are mentally deranged, and they're parts of the medical field, the legal field, law enforcement. They're sitting on positions of government while this criminal system is underway. They are working amongst children. Okay, they're flying helicopters. They are flying commercial airline planes for the criminal purpose. I don't mean normally as running a business. In California, it's state surveillance, period. The specific environment is the proof of it. So the whole malicious system of, oh, I'm just emptying the garbage in the specific environment, that's a demon who's group stalking you. The entity is relying on your ignorance about their engagement and elements that are focused on another person. That's entirely psychotic. And then you're a sex offender while you like to do it in it's not either, because the entity is doing it in the workplace, and it's also doing it in the private space. So this is what I'm capturing in the workplace, which is a basis for recovery from not only third-party group stalker speaker companies, which represents, remember, not an individual company, not just one bad actor. This is what the people of the state are. It's exactly what Courtyard by Marriott is engaged in, state surveillance. This happens to be an employer. That's a third party. There are implications under federal law regarding the punishment applicable for that level of facilitation while you engage in the state's criminal pattern of conduct. And so as I documented, I captured this screen recording video that was corrupted. This is no failure of internet. This is a perfectly fine video that I captured on that day. I'm sitting on the desktop computer in my office, and I am reviewing images on my phone, and I'm also looking at the computer itself. By the way, just like I referenced in the video, everything that's occurring at that workplace, everything that's on that computer is evidence that belongs, contrary to what the entity might think, and it belongs to the feds. Okay, it's evidence, it's documentation, it's an ongoing criminal act. So the entity is engaging in what is criminal activity as they're engaged in Title 18 federal stalking, which is what I'm expounding upon in this video. But of course, you can't see it. It was corrupted as I was publishing my documentation onto the venue of the internet, where I'm heavily documenting and exposing criminal acts of obstruction of justice, while this entity that keeps you under surveillance is also engaged in criminal activity trying to obstruct your ability to publish that evidence, which is a violent sex offender who wants to be a predator, engage in sexual violence against you, and then threaten your life while doing so, keeping you under surveillance, group stalking you as the state, directly and vicariously, and then trying to muzzle you and not permit you to tell anyone about it. That's the personality, that's the entity that is a part of law enforcement, the legal profession, sitting on benches right now calling themselves judges, a part of the government, sitting in leadership positions right now, trying to conceal what they're engaging in. This is literally the population who are the people of the state, the very demons you see, whose name I don't need to know, while they engage in an identical pattern of conduct, which is demonic at its core, molesting, terrorizing with impossible light activity while you're just driving by. No, you're not. You're a demon-possessed group stalker. That is the entity that wants to muzzle you regarding their criminal engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring. Every act of criminal obstruction of justice is the basis for federal prison. So where you will be published as and prosecuted as a terrorist in California, in the United States, but it is immediately escalated to what is time in federal prison if any way you are obstructing an American citizen's ability to document the fact that their life is under threat by the government. This is what the entity continuously engages in. So the entity is seeking to obstruct justice. I'm documenting speaker companies. I'm documenting Maria Solis Alvarez. I'm documenting Maureen Hughes. These are criminals, and I'm documenting the inability to send emails, which is routine, regularly engaged in as a part of my job as the property manager at this third-party facilitating venue, Alvarado Gardens, an apartment complex that was engaged in 24-hour criminal surveillance with the state of California. And that is the greater context regarding the very heavy helicopter activity over my apartment, over my office, all around the property, while a fake sun, the light source, the scientific impossibility that now remains over Courtyard by Marriott, where, as I'm documenting on this day, May 14th, as I continuously documented day in and day out, the fake sun remained directly over Alvarado Gardens. And the pattern of conduct continued even when the demons that continuously engaged in the P.O.C. Engaged in the same exact elements of monitoring while the fake sun was covered up. And I use this language specifically on purpose. When you are aware of the fact that the sun is not a stationary, stagnated object that's going to remain over one building all day long, then it also logically follows that that ability to be to engage in such supernatural occurrences, supernatural events, which is opening your mind perhaps to with regard to what is not so natural regarding the environment. It also logically follows the ability to keep a fake sun all day long is the same ability to cover that fake sun up at any moment's pause, which is within the pattern of conduct that I have captured. The fake sun is covered up depending on what I say, what I do, where I go, depends on the moment. The fake sun will immediately appear, and it always appears directly over my head. That's speaking to the demonic environment. It's speaking to the demons who surround. It's speaking to surveillance, real-time knowledge. This is shared by the entity that surrounds, and it is speaking to the ability to recognize the reality of Satan, okay? The ongoing counterfeit, the fake wannabe God. He is not the equal opposite. He is a created being. He is a spirit, and your ability to perceive the work of Satan is identifying the unnatural behavior, the unnatural environment. The unnatural behavior is rooted to, connected to demon possession. So that's why I'm stating this is not criminal conduct that's just, oh, I just so happen to be. No, you're demon possessed. This is demonic behavior. Monitoring is that which is occurring by those who have demons on them. The demonic feature tied to what is the demonic environment, the demonic behaviors, all of which are supernatural. You're talking about multiple faces, different cities, different counties, and now we've got different states. And you're talking about same exact pattern of conduct. That's supernatural, that a demon in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, is engaging in a supernatural occurrence. Engineered light ricocheting off of the top of your car when you're driving underneath a covered structure. It has nothing to do with the sun. That's exactly what the demons in California are. That's supernatural. And you've got a pattern of the supernatural. Okay, so like I said, that's apart from recognizing the supernatural, that the sun is going to be over one building all day long. So how is the sun ever going to be in New York? How does that happen? Okay, so this is opening your eyes to the reality of Satan, which you need to know. And this is not to alarm and such that you need to be on edge, but you do need to be aware. And if you are one that is ignorant about the reality that you are a spiritual being and that you actually have an enemy to your soul who wants you to be ignorant about his reality. Satan is very real, and Satan is also capable of being perceived. You're aware of it through the demonic environment that you are surrounded by. Because while this documentation is irrefutable and irreducible evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring, I'm going to prosecute Satan in the natural for the criminal conduct that he's using a government to engage in. You have evidence also around you, because we are not in the same environment while you're in Mississippi, while you're in Maine, in Boston, in Vermont, wherever you're at. And it doesn't have to be, even in Nevada. Like I drove to Nevada, there's no sun over Courtyard by Marriott off of Dean Martin, while I am remaining in Monrovia, California. And the object is literally over the same parking lot. It never went to Las Vegas. The sun didn't go anywhere. And that's why I don't refer to it as the sun. That is not the sun. This is shattering all the illusions regarding the environment that we are surrounded by, the lies that we have been told about the environment and how it operates. This is speaking the same liars, the same demons who are in positions of government are telling you things about the environment, such as global warming. They're telling you things about things such as what's happening regarding the size of earthquakes and what was damaged. Much of this is the work of Satan, who has the ability to engage in a counterfeit creation of what God, the omnipotent, all-knowing creator who has always existed outside of time, who created everything. This demonic environment is a counterfeit, a demonic imitation of the natural environment. It is not the natural environment. And I've shown that while the fake sun remains over me all day, and even a fake moon in the same sky space over me at night. That's showing the ability to recognize who the demons are and who they're targeting. The whole environment showing the center of the universe is the targeted individual. And that is not a figment of any American citizen's imagination. And it is also that which is capable of being established through documentation. And that's exactly what the P.O.C. serves. So I will digress there. I'm just speaking to the criminal act of obstruction of justice that this exposes. Maureen Hughes is particularly a third party. The inability to send an email. This is relevant to the harassment by an entity engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. There is no genuine malfunctions. There's no failure of internet. Let me be clear. The entity that's engaged in hovering, psychotic, demonic methods of surveillance in ways that have been documented, in ways that are exposed, in ways that have yet to be exposed. There's no genuine malfunction. Believe me, they are not in any way missing any ability to maintain knowledge and monitoring, awareness, surveying, watching what you are doing, and even stopping the ability to do what it is that you're doing. And so this was not an internet failure. This was an inability to send an email to a third party that the entity knows that I'm documenting. And so, like I stated in this video that you'll hear, that's now in audio format for publishing on the podcast, you will find yourself documented more heavily. While you seek to obstruct justice, which is not helping anyone, you'll find your punishment enhanced as you seek to obstruct justice. This goes for any third-party venue on the internet. This goes for, that's the people of the state and the state, whether they're engaged in surveillance in relevant position, whether they're engaged in surveillance online. That is the policy, and this is how you are stopping the government that wants to conceal its criminal conduct while it conspires to murder and kidnap people. There will be no tolerance for that. Zero tolerance for that. The government and the people of the state in the shoes of the government will not in any way supersede the life of an American citizen. When you're engaged in criminal conduct, you will not, and your exercise of malicious and fictitious authority, creating whatever narrative because you thought that no one knew what you were doing, and the system that is underway while you are presenting yourself to the public, to the world, as though you are a legitimate authority figure, noble and lawful in all of your dealings, and no one questions it because it's the state. And outside of the P.O.C., I agree with it. I studied politics. I studied the law. I agree with these things. The rules and policies are good. They're a good thing. But you have to be literally police for abuse. And that abuse is to be severely punished, because people lose their lives. People lose their liberty. That is unjust. That is unjust. And so you're talking about a whole society going against American citizens, and for what? Because you serve Satan? Okay, so it's the criminality and the hypocrisy by the state is absurd. It's absurd. So the entity is engaging in conduct, and this is obstruction of justice, while the video was corrupted. So the video images of what I'm doing on the desktop computer, the computer that I'm at, the location that I'm at, the specific environment, the stalking by the state, all of these surrounding circumstances are also speaking to what is not a genuine failure of my ability to send an email to a third party that the entity knows is being documented. Every email that I sent and received on that computer desktop was a criminal act under Title 18. They were engaging in surveillance, including Teresa Becerra of Spencer Fane, who's being documented as I referenced it in this email. She engaged in federal stalking, and she engaged in group stalking on more than one occasion, as I documented, in concert with the state LAPD. The entity engaged in group stalking with all of the corporate employees of speaker companies, including Kimberly Fletcher, who is exactly who I specifically document in this video. Well, it's been converted to audio for purposes of broad distribution on the podcast. You're talking about federal stalking, and let me be clear, federal stalking with regard to, in other words, and there's bases upon which I argue that the entity should be found liable under Title 18.22618 subsections 1 and 2, and defining interstate commerce relevant to the surveillance, the group stalking, the surveillance, in other words, in the sky space, using the trains. That's relevant to interstate commerce, crossing state lines, engaging every commercial actor. I mean, outside of a mom and pop, but if they're in any way engaged in interstate commerce, sending your products against beyond state lines. But I also believe that it concerns intrastate commerce. So you're talking about Title 18 that's going to apply to the people of the state, every business. The people of the state, every commercial actor is engaged in federal stalking. They're also engaged in federal stalking because it's occurring with communication devices, phones, which I argue should be defined. It needs to be absorbed into Title 18 legislation and into the language. It needs to be prosecuted under this. In addition, I'm not limiting, but this is my argument based on what the state is doing, based on how the state does what it's doing with the people, with the population, so that everyone, including those that are even under 18, very easily engaging in Title 18. Surveillance using, they all represent a communication device. They don't even have to hold it out. It's just presence in the engineered light, remember, amongst the activity. This is state surveillance online, on the internet, using communication devices, not just cell phones, desktop, your iPads, your laptops, your televisions that are internet operated, your Alexas, your Ring cameras that are internet operated. This is all relevant, and the legislation in many ways is behind what technology is, but this is relevant to what the state is doing, what the state employs, while the people, the population, is engaged in the criminal system with them. It is my argument, based on the criminal system, that federal stalking under Title 18.22618 subsections 1 and 2 directly apply with regard to prosecuting state surveillance. So you have what is the prosecution for being a terrorist, engaging in surveillance with the state, and then also federal stalking being prosecuted while you're engaged in that. Two distinct aspects. And by two, I mean there's the main crime. You're a terrorist, you're group stalking, and then you're also engaged in federal stalking. It's my argument that Title 18.22618 subsections 1 and 2, and nuancing if necessary, and what ways are necessary and relevant with regard to the state's pattern of conduct and the surveillance that's occurring online. And that's why I am speaking to the Title 18.22618 subsections 1 and 2. So nonetheless, that's what I'm capturing, and that is what you will hear, and it's captured again on May 14, 2024 at 9:47 and 34 seconds. It's approximately 19 minutes and some seconds. And I just wanted to preface that with regard to the significance of what you're going to listen to. This is, again, as I'm stating, also evidence of a criminal act of obstruction of justice. The video was corrupted. I was able to salvage it and save it, and also so you can't see anything. But again, where I'm at and the desktop that I'm on, this is evidence that will remain, and the people of the state will be prosecuted accordingly. Everyone's making decisions. All your decisions there will be repercussions for all the decisions made. But nonetheless, everything that happened on that desktop computer is a criminal act, and it remains evidence. And the entity also assumed that they were not already being surveilled by the feds. Everything the entity is doing, it's all subject to ongoing decisions. There are repercussions, federal repercussions. And they're also assuming that they were not already under surveillance by the feds. So this is speaking to what I captured on May 14th, and that's why it's published outside of the date. It's currently August 2024, and this was captured May 14th. But I'm not going to go back. I think it's relevant with regard to what I'm doing right now. And this is an ongoing federal investigation, if you will, and I'm publishing evidence and I'm coming across things. This is a criminal act. Obstruction of justice was discovered today. And so that's why today, August 13, 2024, I'm documenting a criminal act of obstruction of justice on the venue of the internet while the entity seeks to silence you and conceal. You're not helping Maureen Hughes. I will say her name 3 more times and make sure the entity is very specifically reminded about what Maureen Hughes was already documenting and engaging in. And then while you do that, Maureen Hughes is now a candidate for federal prison. The entity will not, under any circumstances, avoid the consequences for its criminal system at all. So this is why I'm going to keep it and publish it today on August 13th, 2024, as opposed to, trying to put it back, chronologically speaking, back with the documentation captured in between May 13th and May 15th. All right, because it's relevant to what was captured today, which is a criminal act of obstruction of justice, ruining. And remember, this was occurring while I was uploading it. What is the entity doing day in and day out when I was uploading documentation? Stalking in helicopters, flying over my office, amplifying audible activity, terrorizing, stalking with engineered light, coming in and out of my office at that least. They were monitoring the documentation. That's criminal act of obstruction of justice. And so seeking to publish my documentation that I published back in May 2024, I'm finding a corrupted file. It's not an internet failure. This is pursuant to the criminal conduct that I capture on an ongoing basis. The entity engaging in more terrorism and harassment as an entity, more psychotic behavior, more criminal activity as you enforce your rights and publish the evidence online. And so this is a criminal act of obstruction of justice that occurred on May 14, 2024. It's discovered today, August 13, 2024. And that's why I'm going to publish it today, as opposed to manipulating it and putting it back in May. It's relevant for today. All right. So again, it is currently August 13, 2024, and I do remain at third-party groups. The Courtyard by Marriott is a third-party group stalker, but I remain at third-party facilitating venue Courtyard by Marriott in Monrovia, California. And this is, again, documentation that has been made into audio format for purposes of what I find to be more useful. It's actually Providence. It's better because there's a lot of explanation regarding understanding what federal group stalking is, how it operates, what you're looking at. As, again, I'm speaking to training your eyes to recognizing the P.O.C. Even when the quote unquote sun, the fake sun, as I refer to it, the light source, is covered up. And you will still understand and recognize what the demons are doing. They're acting in sync. All right. And that's what I'm talking about with the images that I'm referencing. And all of this is shared on a Google Drive, which, again, all of this documentation will be public for the world to see. That's why I capture, not just to prosecute, but to inform the world for you to witness it. All right. So again, it is 5:29 p.m. on August 13, 2024, and this is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 9:47 a.m., so I want to give you another example of what is monitoring on communication devices, which is relevant to what is Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. With regard to the use of interstate commerce. This is on the venue of the internet that's relevant to interstate commerce. The fact, by the way, that the entity is using helicopters to engage in federal stalking, the elements of monitoring is how they're engaged in federal stalking. So you're understanding this is kind of complex. You're understanding, first of all, what is demonic activity. The entity's engagement in this demonic activity, which are the criminal elements of monitoring, okay? Light, activity, relevant positioning. Activity can be light activity, sensational activities, activity that you can feel, rumbling, vibrating. Again, visible activity. Visible activity is also light activity because you can see the light activity. It's both visible and light activity, and also audible activity. These are the 3 elements of monitoring. They are coexisting at all times. The entity is engaged in ceaseless monitoring while you are maintaining ceaseless presence as an entity, a demon-possessed one. And they're doing it as a population because the entity is engaging in what is the creation of a demonic environment, the demonic imitation of the natural environment, and it is occurring both at nightfall. It doesn't matter where you want to call it, a cloudy day. The entity is still engaging in the elements of monitoring. What you saw outside in the parking lot, for example, you have what was Alexa. I'm sorry, not Alexa. That third party's name is of 1818 number 2, and you saw, I believe his name is Raul Ledesma of 1816 number 1. He's going to his van. He's crossing path. He's group stalking and doing so. He gets into his van. He moves his vehicle. His van, by the way, this is a specifically strategically aimed element of the pattern of conduct. That particular third party of 1816 number 1, while I was outside, is going to their van. Their van is in alignment with my office. And so, first of all, they're crossing path, they're group stalking. And were I to go in any other direction, as opposed to back to my office, you'll just have another third party that'll meet me in the path, crossing path, including in the parking lot of Silverview Townhomes on Alvarado Gardens, driving onto the property in any means. But strategically placing themselves to create the elements of monitoring to maintain that specific environment. This is what Ledesma is engaging in while I am walking outside. And I believe his name is Raul. But you have what is going to their van. They're crossing path. I capture video of him crossing path in the parking lot. And then I capture images as I walk back to my office. This third party is then using what is his van as a means of light activity for maintenance of light in the path. He's reversing out. He's driving out of the property. What you will see is that a third party group stalker, specifically the group stalker of 1818 number 2, Alexei Zagar, who was walking in the opposite direction that the van is driving. These are demons that are pacing. Okay, that's what you're looking at in the still images. And this is what I'm showing you. They're demons that are acting together. They're maintaining a specific environment. They're pacing all around. This is what you're looking at them doing while they are still monitoring as I'm documenting it. This is what LAPD is doing in helicopter. They are engaging in what are the elements of monitoring with real-time knowledge of what I'm doing on the internet. In addition to that, so that's just to give you an example. This demonic activity, that's called relevant positioning. What Ledesma was doing with the vehicle is called light activity in the path. Okay, whether I stood still at that sidewalk and did not walk back to my office, if I stood there, they're crossing paths with light. They're still in the path while they're in the parking lot, reversing out of their parking space. The vehicle is a means of light, crossing path, driving toward me. The vehicle lights, the headlights, crossing path, they're moving in the engineered light, they're creating activity. The entity is always surrounding with ongoing noise, including as I narrate the P.O.C. That's audible activity. It's the elements of monitoring that are there. So while they're driving out, but what did I do? I walked back to my office. This is strategic positioning. This is entirely demonic and psychotic when you are literally understanding what they're doing on an ongoing basis. And these are demonic spirits that are operating over people, but you're understanding their criminal conduct because it's surveillance with the state. So as he walks back and then he's reversing his vehicle for purposes of being in alignment. And what I'm speaking to is what is at all times premeditated. Okay. And it is indeed surveillance, and it is not relying only on that demon that is Ledesma and Alexei Zagar, who are crossing paths, which you see on images, for purposes of maintaining the environment around me as I move on the property. Like I said, if I were to go a different route, walk behind building 1816, 1818, there surely would have been a third party group stalker to maintain presence and engineered, including via LAPD sounding helicopter activity, the demons sounding sirens. The entity is maintaining an ongoing environment. Okay. So what you will not have is ongoing peace and quiet 24/7. You're not going to encounter where there's nobody ever around you ever. That's not the case. You're always subject to what is crossing a path, methods of activity creation, and that which is occurring with simultaneity and knowledge. Simultaneity is revealing real-time knowledge. Okay. That's the pattern. So, and that's how you're recognizing targeting. So nonetheless, what I want to document is monitoring. Monitoring on the venue of the internet. So what is LAPD? These are demons that are defeated in every way, not only because I'm exposing their criminal conduct, but you're talking about literally the demon possessed. These are beasts crawling around on their bellies in the spirit. They're disgusting creatures in the spirit, which you cannot see, but I'm letting you know the significance of what they're doing, and it's supposed to occur maliciously. It is entirely psychotic, and that mental illness is also made manifest when you are witnessing them being an entity that are acting together all as one, while they're not getting up in the morning and having a conference together. They're not talking about, okay, we're going to do this and this. You can't anticipate what I'm going to do outside of my regularly scheduled work schedule, my regularly planned work schedule, but you're talking about what is ongoing hovering surveillance and demons that are studying you and maintaining presence regardless of where you go and what you're doing, including when you're physically indisposed in a private space. Now, while I'm in the workplace and I'm on the computer, I want you to look at another example of what is monitoring, and it is through the same demonic pattern of conduct. As you're engaging in the creation of audible activity, you do so with real-time knowledge of what's going on a communication device on the venue of the internet, using helicopter, which I argue is relevant to the use of interstate commerce. The entity using it as a means to engage in what is federal stalking. This is surveillance on the internet, keeping somebody under surveillance on their cell phone, using their cell phones, acting in concert with the people of the state. This is ongoing stalking using communication devices and monitoring on the communication device in use by the target individual. And again, occurring in the workplace. So while I am repeatedly engaging in what is the effort to send an email, the entity would rather, this is also revealing what is psychotic, the entity would rather me capture repeated videos of them blatantly engaging in what is abnormal and peculiar on its face, flying in circles over the office, flying over my head, and there's already a body of evidence you like to fly in circles all around me and over me, okay, and so do other police departments, okay. So the entity would rather me capture this than me send an email to Maureen Hughes. I'm going to document her, and this is relevant to her prosecution, because the entity's not being a distraction. The entity will engage in threatening your life, engage in what is literally psychotic, life-threatening criminal conduct, which is of the highest threat because they're demons that are affiliated with law enforcement agencies who routinely engage in what are, again, assault and battery through that same entity, kidnapping, feigning that they have any sort of legal jurisdiction. They don't. They have no authority under the law. And this is, again, unfortunate with regard to the reality of the landscape, because the state of California is masquerading as though we actually have an appropriate criminal justice system, and actually we don't. The state is the criminal. They're engaged in what is hypocritical and criminal conduct, and they would like to at the same time masquerade as though they have the legal authority that would be afforded to them ordinarily outside of their criminal means of having the information that they have and getting the results that they obtain. It's all criminal. It's all malicious. It's all hypocritical. It's really unfortunate, but this is the legal landscape with regard to a government keeping you under surveillance because we have a constitution. Okay, we have both state and federal laws. They are plainly outside of the bounds of that. And so then what you have a criminal that wants to go outside and exercise authority under the law. You're talking about the demons who are literally delusional. Okay, that's what the LAPD are. So anyway, the entity is engaging in what is the creation of audible activity while I am sending an email to Maureen Hughes. This is a third party. I'm going to continue to document her name. And this is what the ongoing, the entity that engages in an ongoing pattern tending to threaten you. You're going to document the people of the state more. I'm going to read your social security number more. I'm going to show your image and your driver's license more. I'm going to read the names of all of your children where you're living at the crime scene with them more. I'm going to make sure I capture images of you and your wife group stalking together as a demon-possessed family more, while you are acting with that entity that likes to threaten the life of the targeted individual while you're just enforcing your rights. Okay, that's why I'm speaking to what the entity, and it is relevant what you're doing, what you're documenting, what you're engaged in, while the entity engaged in what is on its face, the P.O.C, using helicopters, on its face. Okay, so the entity is engaged in what is very threatening, very scared of me just sending an email to Maureen Hughes. Not only the failed emails, but my own independent documentation is ongoing evidence of what is federal stalking. Everything happening on this communication device is going to be evidence against the entirety of an entity. Everybody sending an email, receiving an email, including the entity, I believe it's Spencer and Fain, the so-called attorney and document engaged in federal stalking via emails on this communication device, which with the same criminals, Kimberly Fletcher, shared with emails with the entity that's referencing, sending me emails back and forth, and they're in that email chain. They're monitoring with the same entity, okay? They're all engaged in federal stalking. They're acting with the same entity, real-time knowledge, all of an entity going against one person. That's a whole body of evidence that's on this computer, okay? So, like I said, the entity is engaging on the elements of monitoring with simultaneity, which requires real-time knowledge of what you not only are physically doing, but as I'm showing here, are engaging on a communication device. And that is, again, the context to what this entity was doing, repeatedly flying over by helicopter. Calling, Adrian Mitchell calling for purposes of creating audible activity is not a It's not a contradiction. Maria Solis sending a text message at the same time. These are demons that are acting in concert. This is also what they're doing in the specific environment when they're sending operation of a communication device. So this is the ongoing context, and this is exactly what Maria Solis was engaging in as I spoke to, that real-time knowledge, and it's also occurring in the specific environment. It's a well-documented pattern of conduct. And so while Maureen Hughes is the third party, documented already engaged in the P.O.C, sending emails to her, and they are failed. And these are the exact same attachments. Literally, it's very mechanical. It's nothing rocket science with regard to sending these federal housing applications to applicants. So this is to show you. So this is an email that I sent on March 21st, 2024, just as an example. And I literally send the same thing, the same exact 10 attachments, not changing the size of the attachments, sent on the same email, sent on the same computer. But you have this morning, while the entity is engaging in this, again, plethora of provision of evidence, speaking to what is indeed group stalking, at the same exact specific environment, covering up the light sources, no deviation from that. You're looking at the pattern that Ledesma and Alexei Zagar, while they are maintaining a specific environment, as I'm merely walking to capture a license plate and walk back, they're maintaining an environment. Whether I'm able to capture it on the entity is monitoring the documentation. So a demon that's in the path creating light activity, like the LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department engage in, the people of the state engage in relevant position creating light activity, and that is also accomplished through traffic which surrounds. Okay. So the pattern of conduct is underway, and so the elements of monitoring, in other words, remain present. The significance of this heavy helicopter activity this morning, while the entity is trying to avoid my ability to send a successful email, an email that I have sent tons and tons of times prior since I began my position at Alvarado Gardens as a resident manager. This is an ordinary aspect of my job, and what I want to show today, this is relevant to what the heavy helicopter traffic is. The ongoing intrusion, which Maria Solis also participated in within the pattern of conduct, and not coincidentally, and engaging in that ambush conduct again while the demon calls the phone, Adrian Mitchell, and the demon text messages me, Maria Solis, while they're all at the same time listening to me document. Okay, this is the context to what LAPD is doing. And this is the affect, the failure of that which I am ordinarily capable of sending. Okay, so I want to document that, and I also want to document that this is the pattern of conduct of federal stalking. Now, you're talking about what is psychotic. It's just an email. All I'm sending is an application. I want to let you know this is the entity that is that petty. Okay, so small. I mean, you are, and let me be clear, these petty people have wives and husbands and children, and they are, as a department, devoted to state surveillance. Not out here investigating crimes of people that are actually doing wrong, such as the people of the state. They're out here doing wrong with the people of the state, targeting somebody that is engaged in no criminal activity whatsoever. I'm referencing myself. In conformity to a pattern of conduct. This ongoing devotion is exhibited through the ongoing obsessive helicopter activity while I am doing nothing, which the entity finds so threatening, okay, with regards to just limiting the ability to send an email. And it is not a true failure or inability to send, because I'm showing you, as I have sent to many people before, such as March 21st, 2024, to what was M. Klein, the people of the state that are merely monitoring on the venue of the internet, on my phone, coming in asking, just like Emiko, this is a demon third-party group stalker. She's also documented engaged in federal stalking while you're group stalking. But she literally sent an email. They're engaged in state surveillance on the venue of the internet. And she's also crossing paths with engineer light all across the apartment buildings. All they're doing is monitoring. And I have successfully sent this email multiple times before. You have, while the entity, this is added context, while they're engaged in psychotic conduct in a helicopter, while the entity is calling me and operating, creating the elements of monitoring, that is, when real time, for whatever reason, whatever reason is that these are psychopaths. Failing, I think you're not protecting anybody. Maureen Hughes is already documented. Okay, so while the entity does that, it's directly relevant to whoever is being documented, to whoever is engaged in the P.O.C. First of all. Number two, this is revealing the ongoing engagement by an entity to harass as an entity. It's the entity harassing you. It's the entity terrorizing you. It's the entity stalking you. It's the entity assaulting and battering you as well. Okay, it's the entity kidnapping and criminally defaming as well. They act with real-time corporate knowledge. Okay? At all times, at all venues. I'm talking about in the court. I'm talking about with the sheriff's departments. I'm talking about with these corrupt law enforcement agencies. I'm talking about at any and every venue. Shared ongoing knowledge, because you're not dealing with individuals that are separate. You're not looking on the natural. Well, you are looking in the natural, and I'm speaking to how the way you're going to prosecute the demonic in the natural. But I want to let you know you're dealing with a demonic spirit that's exercised over a population, and they have shared knowledge of who you are and with regard to what it is that is going on with you, whatever facts and circumstances surround you. You're dealing with an entity, both a corrupt public entity and a demonic entity. Okay, so I want to make sure I document that this is federal stalking. This is also harassment as an entity, not only because the entity is using helicopter activity to engage in the elements of monitoring, maintaining real-time knowledge, just for the pathetic and psychotic purpose of obstructing the ability to send an ordinary email, which I am regularly and routinely sending. And this is which is also relevant to Maureen Hughes, a documented third-party group stalker who I captured not only in images in the specific environment by license plate and while she is present at the crime scene. You're not requesting any information. You're not doing anything lawful, requesting an application. You are engaged in the criminal elements monitoring, period. But I just want to go ahead and capture this. This is the same exact substance of the email. I literally copy and paste the contents of the email because this is mechanical. This is nothing difficult. You're just sending out applications to people. This is the inability to send it on another day. And this is, again, relevant context to what LAPD is doing, flying and doing in circles. And they would also rather me document that. So they're ready to fall on the sword, if you will. But they're not. There is no one is falling on the sword for anybody. Everybody's going down. Everybody. The whole operation. Okay. But I want to give you ongoing context with regard to what the entity is doing. Okay. So it is currently 10:05 a.m. That's documented federal stalking and harassment by an entity. Maria Solis sending an email. Erica, do you have one of these boxes at Alvarado? That's sent at 9:58 a.m. It's occurring in concert with what is the entity calling the phone at the same time. Let me just document that at what is 9:58 a.m. And this is Adrian Mitchell acting in concert. These are demons that engage in more of the pattern while they are exceedingly hostile. The demons, the demonic spirit on them is hostile. Okay, while they act with the absence of any self-control, that is directly relevant to the demon possessed that are in law enforcement agencies, that are bearing weapons, that have tanks, that have access to helicopters, that have access to all sorts of resources which are serving to threaten the liberty and the physical safety and the lives of American citizens. That same demon possession, that same inability to control yourself, that same obsession that is shown through your continuous engagement in the P.O.C. Exhibit A, stalking, encircling, and engaging in the P.O.C. in helicopter. One video after another, I stop recording and immediately resuming helicopter activity. I stop recording, immediately resuming helicopter activity. I stop recording, immediately resuming helicopter activity as I'm trying to send an email, one that I have sent on plenty of occasions prior. Okay, that's the revealing the mental illness of the demon possessed, who are the people of the state, which are vicariously acting in the shoes of the state of California. That is the system of federal group stalking and monitoring. It's including understanding what is federal stalking in violation of Title 18. Maria Solis Alvarez. Okay, she's a third-party group stalker. Speaker Companies Incorporated is a third-party company, in the same way that Sunburst Window Coverings is a third-party company. And any concerted conduct with LAPD is going to result in federal imprisonment of that third-party documented. But Sunburst is, which again, this is a little mom-and-pop company. They're not even going to survive. You're going to drain the pockets, and you're going to publish them as engaged in terrorism in the U.S.